Hello, hello. Welcome to our next roundtable, Unleashing Your Inner Petpreneur 2025 Goal Setting and Accountability with Eliza Burr. We are super excited to have Eliza join us today as we talk about the 12-week year. You might be wondering, what is the 12-week year? It's a method of goal setting, and it's a system designed to help pet care business like yourselves set and achieve meaningful goals and objectives by focusing on shorter time frames. A lot of times with our goals, we think too far in advance. So this method should help us accomplish those goals in a shorter time period. If you're not familiar with Eliza, she is wonderful. She is so knowledgeable, and I'm super excited to have her join us today. She's entrepreneurial, she's supportive, and my favorite part is that she has the experience to back it all up. Whether you're joining us live or if you're watching the recording, we're super excited to dive in, and make sure you stick around to the end. We have a couple questions that we're going to answer for you, and make sure that if you do have any questions for Eliza, we'll get those answered as well. Can't wait to get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Really excited to be here with you all today. I am joined by Eliza. Eliza is the pet business coach. I am Nicole here at Pet Pocketbook. If you aren't familiar with Pet Pocketbook, we're your software platform to help you run your business, save some time, also get organized for the new year. We're so excited to have Eliza join us today. Eliza, in my opinion, is kind of the best in both worlds, because not only does she have a really great, solid foundation of what it takes to run a business successfully, spending 30 years in corporate America, but she also has the knowledge of what it takes to run your own pet care business. So not only is she relatable, but she's knowledgeable too. So those two things combined is kind of like the perfect combination. So I'm super excited to have Eliza here today.
I'm thrilled to be here. I feel special. And thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited about today.
Awesome. I'm super excited to hear you too. And everyone, if you have questions for Eliza today, as we're kind of going throughout today's session, feel free to use the chat. There's a chat functionality on your Zoom bar. Sounds like we have a couple people who have jumped in already, so don't be shy. Ask your questions, say hi to each other. Feel free to drop your social media handles if you'd like to share your information with everyone. Love to get that conversation going. And of course, if you do have questions throughout the session, we will be answering them. So if Eliza is asking a question, you want to jump in, feel free to unmute yourself to do so. But otherwise, I will ask you to all remain on mute otherwise, just because our furry friends like to bark and meow in the background. So sometimes it can be a little bit distracting, although most of us are used to it by now. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Eliza so we can kick things off.
Awesome. So again, hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here. A little bit about myself. As Nicole mentioned, I spent 30 years in corporate America doing a variety of different functions until one day I was sitting at my desk watching TV, and I'll explain why I was watching TV in a minute. And I had an epiphany. And I was watching TV because it was one of those big open plan workspaces that companies are so fond of now. So we had this giant TV in the middle of our workspace. So couldn't help but watch TV. And for 8 hours a day, it would scroll bullet points about the mission and vision and all the things about the company. And I was watching the TV and I felt sick, felt like I was going to throw up on my shoes. But even more than that, I felt like I was in the wrong place. So, which is a terrible feeling to have, and I couldn't shake it. So I went home and I started researching, and I came across entrepreneurship. And it was 6 months after that I quit my corporate job and started a pet sitting and dog walking business based in Omaha, Nebraska. I built that business to 12 employees, 2 managers, and a virtual assistant. And then I moved halfway across the country to North Carolina, where I live now, to the middle of the Appalachian Mountains, and I ran that business remotely. So lots of experience running coaching and mentoring in the corporate world, but running my own pet sitting and dog walking business as well. And today I am the pet business coach, as she said. So I help other pet business owners. So I think if we can bring up the slides, we can jump into our topic today. And I just need to, I'm a co-host, right? So I just need to share my screen.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me know if you need me to share instead.
That is working. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, it's working. So let's jump into this. So I'm a planner. I'm a huge planner. So I love setting goals. I love the topic. I love the methodology around setting goals. So I'm so excited to talk about this. So today we're going to talk about your 2025 goal setting. You know, we're already, gosh, we're already a month into 2025. So it's definitely not too early to do this. And we're also going to talk about accountability and how you can make sure that the goals you're setting will actually come to fruition. All right. And there's going to be some time at the end too for a discussion back and forth. This is Q&A or a round table. So, you know, feel free to jump in anytime, or you can wait till the end. There we go. All right. So today we're going to go through why traditional goal setting methods don't work, why they fail. We're going to talk about a different alternate method called the 12-week year. We're going to talk about how to develop smart tactics for success. And a lot of you will probably recognize the SMART terminology. That's the very typical, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound method for setting goals. And we're going to talk about how to create plans that are aligned with your values so that you can be more sure of achieving your goals. All right, so I am going to start with a little quiz. And if you could just pop the number that applies to you in the chat, I'd like to get kind of an idea of where we are. Pop a number 1 in there if you never set goals because they don't work and you never meet them. Number 2, I set goals sometimes, but I forget them in the day-to-day hustle of my business. Number 3, I set goals regularly, but don't seem to be able to meet most of them. And number 4, I set goals regularly and I meet them. I need to fix this so I can see the chat. Okay. Between 3 and 4, 2 and 3, 3. Okay, well, this is good. This is great. So I'm not seeing a lot of ones there. I'm seeing a little farther down. Sounds like you guys are having some pretty good goal setting experiences. I'm also not seeing anyone saying just 4, which is good because if you said just 4, you're probably in the wrong seminar. All right, fantastic. All right, so let's talk. Let's talk about why goals fail. Now, traditionally, we set goals on a 12-month period. You know, we spend December or maybe early January figuring out where we are in our business and where we want to be, and we set goals based on those metrics. And the problem with this is it's just too long. 12 months is too long. Because what happens in that 12 months is that we lose sight of the goals. Unless we're physically reviewing our list of goals every day or every week, we don't remember them, quite honestly. You know, I have a hard time remembering what happened last week. You know, I'm not going to remember what I wrote down 3 months ago. We lose sight of the goals. Our priorities change. Our businesses are changing so much on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis that we do not have the same business in November as we had back in January. It's just not realistic. Market changes, our people change, our business changes. So our priorities change with those changes. And finally, the 12-month method doesn't work because they aren't broken down. Because 12 months is such a long period, we feel like we need to set a bunch of really big, outrageous goals, right? Because we've got 12 months to do it. We have all this time. So we set a bunch of really big goals. And we get lost in those goals, and we don't break them down to the point where we can actually. Ooh. Did someone have a question, or was that just you playing with the mic? Okay. All right. So instead of the 12-month period, we're going to talk about something different. We're going to talk about goal setting with the 12-week year. Now, this is not my original idea. This is all based on a book by Brian P. Moran and Michael Lennington called The 12-Week Year. There's a picture of the book right here on my desk as well. Keep it handy. And this is really a proven better way to set and actually meet the goals that you've set. And the reason it works better is because the method, in addition to being shorter, it's only 12 weeks, it's not 12 months. In addition to that, it focuses on achieving tasks versus achieving a goal, and then and assumes that by achieving those tasks, the goals will take care of themselves. The goals will come true. All right. Now, I've been working with the 12-week year for about 18 months now. And I got to tell you, it's made a remarkable difference in how I set and achieve goals. And I think I have accomplished more in the last 12 to 18 months than I did in the previous 5 years because of this method. So I can personally vouch for it. And the reason it works is because you don't lose focus. You don't lose sight of your goals. It's a small enough period so that you're not wondering. You know what goals you set because you just set them a month or 8 weeks ago. It also works because your priorities can change to reflect your business needs. You know your priorities are going to change anyway. This method, the shorter time frame, allows them to change, and you can flex with that. And it also works because the goals are broken down into tactics. And we're going to talk about what those tactics are and what they mean in just a minute here. So I always like to jump in by starting with an example. And I'm going to walk you through each one of the parts, but I wanted to throw this up here first. This is what we're working towards. This is actually a 12-week goal template. And I filled in a bunch of detail on here, and we're going to go through the different parts. So don't worry that there's a bunch of things on here that I haven't explained yet. But basically, it's a pretty simple template. You have a space at the top you can see for your long-term, your broad goals, 1 or 2 or 3 broad goals. And then you have a space below that for each one of those big goals to put down some tactics and some timing. So let's work through that. Let's talk through that a little bit. All right. All right, the whole thing starts with developing some high-level goals. Now, there's so many things in our business that we want to improve, right? It's so easy to think, oh, I need this and I need this and I need to do this and we need to get this into the goals. And before you know it, you've got a list of goals that is, 10, 12, 15 goals long. And that's crazy. We'll never have that much time. We will never get that much accomplished. So you've got to be able to scope this down. So what you're looking for here is 2 to 3 goals, high-level goals at the most, and you want to focus on things that will drive your business forward, right? So these are high level. These are big things. Now, even with that understanding, it's easy to get a little bit lost in all the different goals you can set and things you can do for your business. So I find that it's helpful to start at an even higher level and look at some categories. So there are 8 categories here. This is not an exhaustive list, but it's pretty complete. These are generally the areas in any pet sitting or dog walking business where you can improve your business. So it might be your operational efficiency or business growth and expansion or client satisfaction. These are just some general categories where you can start to think, okay, I'm going to focus on these 2 or 3 general categories and set goals around them. So you may, for example, think, okay, this 12 weeks in my business, I'm going to focus on improving my operational efficiency, and I'm going to focus on improving my team development. And then you can set some goals around those categories. So to improve my operational efficiency, for example, I might want to right-size my service area to optimize my employee routes, optimize my employee retention, and optimize my marketing efforts. And then I'm going to work on team development. So a goal for that might be to provide ongoing training and certification for my staff in pet care and first aid. So I've started with the categories, and then from them, I've made my big 2, 3 at the most goals. All right. All right. So I know I'm talking pretty fast because I'm excited. I tend to talk fast when I'm excited. So if anybody has any questions, please stop me. Feel free to unmute yourself and shout it out. I'm happy to answer them. And I will take a breath and try to go a little slower here. All right, so once you've got those 2 or 3 big goals, and remember, this is only 12 weeks. You are not planning the rest of your business life here. You're only planning the next 3 months. So it's okay if you don't get to everything. You will not get to everything. This allows you to hone in on the next 12 weeks. So once you have those, you want to develop tactics for those 2 or 3 big goals. And tactics, the book uses the term tactics. Basically what they mean are actions or tasks. So if you feel more comfortable saying tasks or actions, you can do that. Tactics is just the terminology they use in the book. But when you develop your tactics or your tasks around each of these large goals, you want to think in terms of SMART goals. So you want to make them specific, make them measurable, make them achievable, make them relevant, and make them time-bound. And we're going to talk a little bit more about time-bound in a second. That's why I have it grayed out at the bottom there. But, I often see, I was trying to think of a good example between a non-SMART and a SMART goal. So I jotted one down before we got on. A non-SMART goal would be, I'm going to train my employees, for example. A SMART goal would be, I'm going to train every new hire on how to log a visit into Pet Pocketbook within 1 week of their hire. So you can tell that's very specific. I can measure it. I either did it or I didn't within that 1 week. It's very achievable and it's very relevant to my goal and improving my business. Okay. All right, so once you have the tactics, and people sometimes ask me, how many tactics do you need for each one of your high-level goals? And the answer to that is enough, but not too many. In other words, it depends. You don't want 50 different tactics or tasks associated with each goal. You have a limited number of hours during the day, and let's face it, you're spending a lot of them out in the field visiting cats and dogs. So, don't put so much on there that you won't be able to deal with it and you'll get frustrated. I find as a general rule, maybe 4 to 6 tactics is a pretty good number for each one of your big goals. All right, so once you have the tactics, you want to add in some timing. Now, there's options. You can say that you're going to do this tactic every week. The tactic can repeat, for example. The goal I just listed was train every new hire on how to log a pet visit. Is not a one and done kind of thing. It's going to happen every week. So that's a tactic that you're going to do every week. It might happen every day. It might be something that has to be done every day, or it might happen once. It might be something that you need to accomplish in week 2 of your 12 weeks or week 6. So you want to go through and figure out for each of your tactics when exactly you're going to need to do them. All right, so here we are back at the example I threw up. So in my example, this is a pet business example. So I have started at the top here. One of my 12-week goals is to create the perfect customer experience. So I'm working on client satisfaction this 12 weeks, and I want to create the perfect customer experience. So that's pretty broad, right? That's not specific or smart at all. I need to break it down into those SMART tactics. So to achieve that, I'm going to review my meet and greet process and make improvements to maximize the wow factor for my clients. And I'm going to do that in week 1. It's a pretty big task. So I'm going to do it in week 1 and week 2. So I can see here on my plan that it's going to start in week 1. It's going to end in week 2. Another one on here is I'm going to reach out to 3 clients per week to ask them how things are going and ask for suggestions for improvement. Now that's something that's going to reoccur. So that's something I'm going to do weekly. So I put that I'm going to do that weekly. It's going to start in week 1 and it's going to end in week 12. And I've done this for all of my tactics. Now, one tip here is that it does help to have a few tactics on here that are reoccurring. In other words, they happen every day or they happen every week during the 12 weeks, and a few that are finite. There's 1 week that they happen and they're done and you can mark them off. And part of the reason, I suggest doing this is because I don't know about you, but I like marking things off my to-do list. It's fun, right? It makes you feel like you're accomplishing things and getting things done. So when you throw in those finite tasks, you're able to say, okay, check, it's done. I'm going to move on to other things. And it's just kind of satisfying. So it helps to have kind of a mix of things. Okay. All right. So with setting goals and working towards your goals comes tracking. You need to keep track of where you are to keep track of where you are to keep moving forward. Now, you can, if you want, simply start marking tasks off as you finish them. It can be as simple as that. You can use that. You can use this sheet. You see there's a column on the very far right-hand side there that's blank, where you can check off tasks as you achieve them. It can be as simple as that. But if you want to get a little bit fancier, there are some really cool ways to track this, and I'm going to show you one of them. Now, the 12-week year, the book, in it, the authors actually provide, you can go to their website and you can get this tracking tool. They provide a weekly tracking tool. Now, I love the book, but personally, I felt like the weekly tracking tool they were providing was a little bit overcomplicated. So I made my own. When we're all entrepreneurs, right? When we see a need, we fill it. So I made my own. I'm going to walk you through that and kind of let you see how that works. Key point is that, and the book is great at explaining this. I'm not going to do as good of a job as the book, but a key point is that a lot of people think that to achieve their goals, they need to achieve all of the actions or tasks or tactics related to the goal. Unless they've done all of those tasks, the goal will not be achieved. They've done a ton of research that they lay out in this book to say that that is not actually true. What they're proposing, and I believe this because I've done it, it works, is that if you reach a level of 85%, not 100%, 85% each week on your tactics and what you've done for that week, you will reach your goals. You will succeed, which is fabulous. You don't have to get an A in this class. You have to get, what is 85? A B minus? You will still succeed if you get an 85. And I don't know about you, but I was an 85% student. I wasn't a 100% student in school. I never have been. So I was thrilled to death to hear that I didn't have to be perfect. All right. So here is, I know there's a lot going on here. I'll kind of walk you through this. Here is a 12-week plan, weekly tracking. Again, this is not something you have to do. This is a great method if you just simply want to use the Word document, the plan that I showed you, but this is a way to take it a little bit farther. So what this is an Excel document. And oh, by the way, anybody who wants this tool, this Excel document, I'm happy to provide it to you. You can pop me a note at the end or put your email in the chat and I'll be happy to send it to you. But let me kind of walk you through how this works. So in it, you fill in essentially all of the yellow spaces. So here you can fill in that when your 12-week begins. In this particular example, I put that it was beginning on January 1st. From that, it will tell you when the 12-week ends, March 26th in this case, and it will self-populate the dates for each one of those 12 weeks. Now, so I'm going to pause here to point out the obvious. Has anybody come to the blinding realization that 12 weeks times, what is it? 12 weeks times 4 does not equal a year? Because there are actually 13 times 4 periods in a year. Yeah, there's an extra week, right? There's that 13th week. And that 13th week can be a couple of things. In the book, they use the 13th week to plan for the coming 12 weeks. So that 13th week, you're done with the previous 12 weeks. You're spending that 13th week making your plan for the coming 12 weeks. I use it a little bit differently. Again, entrepreneurs, they like to do their own thing. I use that 13th week as a fudge factor because, things, we all have lives. Things go wrong. You get waylaid. And my husband hurt his back a few months ago and threw my whole world into disarray. Sometimes things just go pear-shaped and you don't make all the things you want to do get done in the 12 weeks. So I use that 13th week as a gimme to catch up if I need to, or correct for what I missed. So you can use it however you want. All right. So what I did here was from that template I showed you a few minutes ago, I simply transferred over my big goal. My big goal is to create a perfect customer experience. And I transferred over my tactics for that goal. And I transferred over what weeks they were due. Now I'm in week 1 on right here. Pretend I'm in week 1. Starts January 1st. Every time I achieve one of the tactics that's due in that week, I put a score in the Excel spreadsheet. If I did all of the tactic, I'll put 100%. If I did part of it, as I did here in the example, I'll put a 50%. The spreadsheet will automatically calculate up that column for the first week, for every week, and give you a score. And you can see down at the bottom that my score for this first week in this example was 88%. It's not 100%, but we all know you don't need 100%. You only need 85. So I've met my goal for that week. I've had a really, really good week in this example. And you simply do that week to week as you go. And every time you end a week, you'll get a score. And if you can, on average, over those 12 weeks, get a score of 85% or higher, I guarantee you will meet your goals.
I'm just going to jump in here real quick.
Yeah, please.
Eliza, I love this so much. And the reason I love it so much is because so many people, I think myself included, feel like goals are black and white, where either you hit them or you miss them. And the moment you start feeling off track, it can feel like you let yourself down if you're not, if it's yes or no. So I love that it's like you give yourself a score, because then it feels more achievable and it feels like you're making progress and it's more positive. And I feel like the yes or the no of hitting the goals is what helps, is what causes some people to fail. So I absolutely love this approach to goal setting.
Yeah, you're so right. And we are so hard on ourselves as entrepreneurs. I mean, we just beat ourselves up on a daily basis for essentially doing the best we can with the situation we're given. And it's very, very easy to start to get off track and chuck the whole endeavor because you're so far off track that you don't think you can get back to where you were. And that's why I love the time period. It's 12 weeks. So even if like I said, even if your whole world goes haywire, in 12 weeks you get a do-over. You're going to start over. And mentally you can reset, and it allows you to be okay with kind of veering off track if you happen to veer off track. So yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. Okay. All right. Oh yes, this is my slide for the 13th week. I call it the doo-doo factor. Doo-doo happens. It's nice having that extra week at the end of the 12 weeks to fix the doo-doo. take care of the doo-doo. All right. Okay, so where are we? Oh, we're doing pretty good on time. So the other reason, so we talked about some of the very real physical reasons that goals fail in terms of 12 months being just too long a period and why that is too long a period. But there's another reason why goals fail. And this is maybe even more important than any of the other things we've talked about. And that reason is that goals fail because they aren't aligned with your why. And if you haven't heard that term before, it originated in a book. What was it? Gosh, I'm sorry, I'm blanking out the name of the book. It was by Simon Sinek. Know Your Why. Has anybody ever heard of that? If you do, pop it in the chat because I cannot remember the name of that book. But anyway, your why is it's your reason for starting your business. It's why you're doing all these things you're doing in your business every day. It's not, it is to make money. We don't do this as a hobby, but it's also it's your motivation. It's your love of animals. It's your desire to help people. Everybody has their own why, and it's a very personal thing. And, you're the only one that really understands your why. So, when you think about your why, it needs to match your goals. Or when you think about, I said that backwards. When you think about your goals, it needs to match your why. So when I set goals, I always think about starting from my why when I set those goals. I also refer to this as bulletproofing your goals, because this is really what makes the goals meaningful to you and your business and allows you to achieve them, makes you want to achieve them. So that's a pretty general statement, right? So me saying, remind yourself of your why. You all know why you started the business, but it's probably not a real concrete thing in your head. I'm suggesting that you make that a little more concrete. So I suggest you take a little bit of time before you set your goals to list out your values, your passions, and your interests. Now, these are all things that led you to start a business in the first place. The next thing I'd like you to do, or suggest you do, is to reflect on your strengths and your weaknesses. And then finally, identify areas of your life where you want to set goals. And oh, by the way, this isn't just a way to set business goals. You can set personal goals using this methodology too. So it might not just be business, it might be career, it might be health, it might be relationships, whatever it is. Once you have thought about those things, you want to weigh the goals against your values, passions, and interests. You want to weigh the goals about everything you've written down and thought about here. If your goals in no way reflect your values and your interests, well, then they're not good goals. They might be good goals, but they're not good goals for you because you are not going to really have any interest in achieving them. The second thing on here, reflect or writing down or reflecting on your strengths and weaknesses. I've seen a lot of people set goals that do not align with their strengths and weaknesses. So for example, one year, this was a few years back, but I set a goal to redo my website. So I am not a tech person. I do not know one single solitary thing about how to redo a website. I'm terrible at website design. It's just not my thing. It's my weakness, right? Well, guess how well I achieved that goal? I didn't. It lasted for about 3 weeks of me beating my head against a wall, swearing at my computer, treating my husband badly because I was always in a bad mood. And before I finally gave up on the goal and said, no, this is just not going to work. I'm going to hire someone to redo my website. So if I had spent a little time, even a little time up front thinking about my strengths and weaknesses, that goal wouldn't have made it onto the list. All right. Yeah, so you're aligning your why, you're weighing your goals against the things that you have thought about and put down on paper. And because you're doing this, you can be a lot more confident that what you set as your goals are things that you're going to achieve, right? Where we are human, even if we know, what's a good way to put this? Even if we think we need to achieve something and know we need to achieve something, if our heart is not in it, we're not going to get there. It's just a basic fact of human nature. All right, so just a few last things. You do not have to go at this alone. I know I threw quite a lot of information at you. I am going to, for anybody who attended this session, I want to help. I'm going to offer a free 20-minute one-on-one goal review so that you can get your goals going and get started right with your 2025. So anybody who wants to, if you would like to email me your goals by February 15th, that's not a long time. It's only 2 weeks. I did that by design because I don't want people out there procrastinating. If you want to email me your goals by February 15th, I'll schedule a time with you to walk through them and kind of give it the once over and see if it makes sense and works for you. Okay, so it's time for Q&A. There's just a little bit of information here on places you can reach me. My website is thepetbusinesscoach.dog, not .com, .dog. My email is Eliza at thepetbusinesscoach.dog. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. And I have a podcast. If you guys are interested, I have a podcast called Off the Leash with the Pet Business Coach, where we talk about everything pet sitting and dog walking business related. All right.
Eliza, that's such a kind offer to go through the goals together. And I feel like every one of us here could benefit from that. I'm curious,
Yeah.
what areas of a pet care business do you think would benefit the most from this 12-week goal plan?
Yeah, I love that question. So without fail, when I talk to my clients, when I coach my pet sitting and dog walking clients, the area where they're struggling a little bit with is their SOPs, their standard operating procedures. And that falls into the category of operations. A lot of us, especially when we start out, and even in mature businesses, have all of these processes and how we do things in our heads, right? Which is great until you go out and get hit by a bus. You can't keep everything in your head, and developing policies and standard operating procedures, your how-to documents, is what essentially takes your business out of your head and makes it a standalone, viable on its own business, and allows you to step back and have a life. So I meet a lot of people in my work who are just really stressed out because they don't get time off. They never get days off. Their business is just consuming them, and they can't even remember the last time they had an uninterrupted meal or gosh forbid, a week of vacation somewhere. So I always tell people to start with that, to save your own sanity so that you don't burn out. Start with the operation side of it and start by making goals around writing in paper, not in your head, your procedures, your standard operating procedures. That was a long-winded answer. I know. I hate that there's so much burnout in our industry, so I get a little rambly on that. Sorry about that.
That's a good answer. I feel like that's really helpful to put it into context of like what types of goals and where to focus and what you see most commonly as a business coach.
Yeah. And I saw someone pop into the chat too. The E-Myth by Michael Gerber addresses this issue. One of the best books I've ever read. If anybody here has not read that book, it is absolutely amazing.
Thank you, JJ, for that comment. That was awesome. Very helpful. So I know one thing that you have done in your career, in your life, is step away from, running the pet care business, being in the field day to day. If someone here is interested in pursuing that for their future, what types of goals or what things would you encourage them to focus on?
Two things. The first thing is boundaries. We are caregivers by nature. Most of us are, and two things are true. We want to help people. We are caregivers. That's one thing. The second thing that is true is we want our businesses to succeed. So when you take those two together, it means that we don't say no. We don't say no to late night calls. We don't say no to unreasonable client expectations. We don't say no to pretty much anything, especially in the beginnings of our business. And because we don't say no, we don't have a life. And because we don't have a life, we burn out. So you can set some simple boundaries and set some goals around setting those simple boundaries to be able to as JJ said, to be able to find time to work on your business versus in your business and keep your sanity in the process. So I would definitely set goals around boundaries. And then the second thing is I would set goals about what we already talked about, set goals around documenting your procedures, your standard operating procedures and your policies, because this is what it allows, this is what's going to allow you to delegate, right? And you're not going to be able to step back and have a life without delegating to your people.
One of the most frequent things I talk to people about when we're bringing someone new onto the Pet Pocketbook platform is, let's talk about how your business operates today. And if you had to go and take some unexpected time off, what would happen? And I think it's hard to face sometimes because if you're not prepared to do that, it kind of helps you put that into perspective of what you need to prioritize and how you should set your goals, based on what, if you have, like you said, standing operating procedures, and if you don't have those type of things, prioritizing them to make sure that, not only are you able to set boundaries for yourself, but if you were to be able, or for any reason you weren't able to be working in the business the day to day like you're doing now, there's a path forward and a way to handle that. And obviously Pet Pocketbook can help with some of that, but a lot of it, it takes a lot of time to just work on those things to establish these parts of your business that aren't so glamorous, but are so important as well.
They are, yeah. And just a bit of a plug here. I was smart enough early on in my business to get a pet sitting and dog walking management software like Pet Pocketbook, and it changed my life. I mean, if you are not on some kind of software like that, and Pet Pocketbook is wonderful, go out and do it today, because all these things that I'm suggesting are just nearly impossible if you are spending all your time again in your business trying to schedule all this in your head or on paper. So yeah, we appreciate Pet Pocketbook.
Thank you. We appreciate everyone here too. Anyone else have questions? Feel free to drop them in the chat, comments, that goals that you think that you'd like to set based on our kind of chat here with Eliza today. I feel like myself, I'm going to go ahead and fill out her template because I tend to set goals on a like yearly, annually basis. And by the time you're reflecting on your goals, you already forgot all of them. And then you're frustrated because you missed all your goals because you weren't reviewing them or the time frame was too long. So it's incredibly helpful to think of it this way. So I'd love to hear if anyone's willing to share what they're thinking about making their goals for their plans.
Yeah, a couple of emails. And as I said before, it's a wonderful book. If you want to go out and buy the book, definitely do that if you want to. If you don't want to buy the book, you can also Google The 12-Week Year by Brian P. Moran, and they have a whole website. They've got some tools on the website. They've got quite a lot of help on there as well.
And don't forget your public library.
And yes, the public library. I don't know. It's been out for a while. I don't know what year the book came out, but yeah, most libraries should have it.
I love that, JJ. I'm a big fan of libraries myself, so I can so appreciate that.
Well, I'm pretty
Sarah,
lucky because our library system has an interlibrary loan that they'll go literally all over the country. And they've only failed me once, possibly twice. but
That's
most of the
wonderful.
time they come through.
Recently figured out how to check out electronic books from my library, well, a whole series of local libraries, and that's fabulous. I don't even have to leave my house.
Sarah, thank you for sharing your goal. Sarah says this year her goal is to be hands off for her business, for her sister and staff while she's on maternity leave. Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations, Sarah.
I love that. So here's a question. Does your sister work with you? Are you partners, or does your sister work for you? I'm always interested in the family dynamics there. For you. Okay, that's brave. Well, both of them are brave, honestly.
I'm a little different than probably most of the people in this group. I'm a sole practitioner, and I just had something happen that puts me in the total opposite end of things, which is the clients I had, a few of the pets seemed to all die at the same time. So now I have to find new clients. Eliza, I am not going to exploit you. I've already had the 20-minute session, and my comment on it is if you think about it for a bit, and let her know what's going on with you. I found Eliza's comments were helpful because I told her what was going on with me. Um, and I will, toward the end of this, not to eclipse other people, will drop you a comment or two on where I'm doing on the suggestions that you had. But I think the other thing, I've done this once before, but this is the second time. It sinks in a little more each time. So I found I got a little more out of it this time than the first time. Even in the rewinds, I think it just takes time for some of this to sink in.
Yeah,
So,
it does. And thank you for the kind words, JJ. I do remember the first time, my first 12 weeks, the first time I set the goals. And I set way too many goals. And didn't do very well the first 12 weeks in full honesty. Because there was too many goals and they weren't broken out enough in my tasks. And I thought the whole thing was a complete failure. and I wasn't going to do it again, but I hung in there. So, it does take a little bit of getting used to it because we haven't really been taught, that kind of approach. It seems short-sighted to a lot of people. And in a lot of ways it is short-sighted, but that's the point. We are typically short-sighted as a natural tendency, so it works with our natural tendencies.
Anyone else have any questions for Eliza? Please feel free to either unmute yourself and hop right in here or just answer or type your question in the chat. Looks like a couple people will be in touch with you, Eliza. Sarah has a question. Where do you think the best place is to post ads for hiring?
It's a great question. So I have a very long answer to this. So I'm going to try to make that not so long. I'm trying to make it a little shorter. The best place to post ads for hiring is where your ideal employee hangs out. So I do a lot of work with people to define in detail who their ideal employee, call them the employee avatar, who they are. And I have 3 ideal employees in my business. One of them's name is Hetty. I name my avatars. So I know Hetty. Hetty is like a real person to me. I know what she does, who she hangs out with, how she thinks, what she feels. And I talk to Hetty where she is. So, in general, I would say Indeed.com is a good place to put hiring ads. I've used that quite a bit, but that's in general. I like to get a little more specific, and I like to think about who you're trying to reach. So I guess the short answer to that is I don't know. It depends who you're trying to hire, who your ideal employee is.
What's your ideal employee? Can you describe them? Tell us a little bit more about Hetty.
Are you asking me or in general?
Yes, asking you. This is actually another question from Sarah.
Oh, yeah. So in my pet sitting and dog walking business, of course, I coach now, so my ideal employee is a little different. But when I was running my pet sitting and dog walking business, one of my ideal employees was named Margaret. Her full name was Margaret the Mature, right? So Margaret the Mature was 65 years or older. She lived on her own in an apartment. She had family that had moved out of state, so she didn't have a lot of support. She was fighting some medical issues, so she couldn't easily get her dog out and walked and exercised. She was within a certain number of miles from the heart of my business. And I could go on and on. I have a whole long list of who Margaret was, but you kind of get the idea. I knew exactly who I was. You know what I've just done? I've just made a very, very big mistake. I just realized it. Sorry. I was describing my ideal client, not my ideal employee. Did anybody else catch that?
I was waiting to jump in,
Thank you.
but
So because it works both ways, and you can have ideal clients as well as ideal employees. Everybody tends to focus on the ideal client, but your ideal employee is the same concept. You want to think about with your ideal employee what their demographics are, what their geographics are, where they're located, and also what their psychographics are. And that's a term that a lot of people don't think about. Psychographics are how people think and the problems that they have that you can solve for them. So when you think about your ideal employee, you're not just thinking about who they are and where they live. You're thinking about how they think. My ideal employee, for example, is a middle-aged woman whose kids are off at school all day and she's bored and she wants to do something and she wants it to be meaningful. She doesn't really need the money in a bad way, but she wants to get out. She wants to be active, do something meaningful, and interact with people. So she makes a great midday dog walker. So for her, that she was one of my perfect employees, and I would target my marketing because it is marketing. You are marketing to your potential employees to her.
I'm so glad you said that, Eliza, because that's so important too. Like your marketing, it represents your brand at all stages. That means your clients that you're bringing on and also your team that you're trying to build. So it's just as important to keep in mind, your avatar for your employee than it also is to for your clients. So it's important to understand those both and the psychographics behind it, where they live, what they're interested in. All those things are so important. And it can be fun to think about and kind of put yourself in their shoes and build a whole avatar around that.
Yeah, and naming them helps make them real, right? Because you don't want to talk to people, you want to talk to a person. And if you know that person well, right down to what their name is, you will come across as more sincere.
you made a comment earlier in your presentation, Eliza, about clients and working with clients who may just be just you can never please them. And I just like to say that even when my dance card isn't full, I have had two occasions where I've had to say to a client, gee, I'm no longer available to work for you. Sometimes it's a decision I've made, and I address it the next time I call. No, I'm not available, along with a raise in rates, because it sort of sends the message. But I always try and express myself in a way that doesn't blame or make it about them, because in both those cases, sometimes after I've terminated the relationship, but sometimes before, they have referred me to other people. So I think it's okay to, in your head, you're firing this client, but I think how you do it makes a difference, and I think the two things I've learned that help me be assertive without being aggressive or snappish, and not continuing to feel that the relationship is uneven, is to make it about my availability, usually for a foreseeable period of time, or my inavailability. And only there was one time when it was confrontational, and this was my fault. And I'm going to say that it was because I let this person get away with something more than once. And what I let them get away with was not paying me what we agreed to. you should kind of get on that the first time. Don't let it go to 3 or 4, because then it has to be a confrontation. So the other thing I try and do is really think about, I can't control those other people out there. I can only control me. What can I do to do what I need to do, but not necessarily burn bridges?
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody likes firing a client, but sometimes it's the best thing to do. I see there's a question from Sarah Lynn as well about telling your clients whether you're pregnant or not. So whether you tell your clients depends on how visible you are to your clients today. If you are very visible, if you are talking to them on a daily basis or communicating directly with them and they see you often, if you leave for your pregnancy leave, they'll notice, your absence will be missed. It will leave a big hole for them. So if that's the case, I would definitely tell them. But along with that, I would help them understand what systems and processes you've put in place to make sure that everything's going to run super smoothly while you're out. And it doesn't have to be a 10-page email to them. You can be a little more concise, but give them some reassurance that you have your ducks in a row and that things are going to be fine while you step away for a bit because of this, and this. Now, if you are not that visible to them, if you step away and you're not really communicating directly with them on a regular basis anyway, I wouldn't tell them. I would just go with having your staff step in and help out. You're very visible. Yeah. A lot of us are, because it's our business. We like being visible. We like interacting. Do you have one more question? I think she's typing.
And just as a reminder for everyone, we'll be recording this session. So if you want to come back to it later, use some of these resources that Eliza has shared. We will be able to send that along with the recording as well.
Oh, here it is. Okay, I just raised rates and I didn't tell most of my clients I'm pregnant yet. Only a couple. I'm 10 weeks. I'm slipping away about 7 months pregnant. Yeah, that's a really good question. I would wait. I wouldn't tell them until it is a very personal decision. But if it were me, I wouldn't tell them until you were 2 to 3 weeks away from stepping out of the picture for a bit. And the reason I say that is because people will stew on it if you tell them way ahead of time, and you'll give them a chance to maybe stew on it and get a little bit agitated about it and maybe a little bit worried. If you tell them a little closer to when you're stepping out, and again, with the reasons that things are going to be fine, I think they'll get into that frame of mind faster. Sure. Be to help. And congratulations.
Eliza, I'm a little bit not terribly 21st century cyber savvy. I did put a direct message in the chat because it's like off topic adjacent. So I just wanted you to see that I did that.
To me or to somebody else?
No, to you. I thought I had sent it directly to you. Do you see it?
I do not see it. Let's scroll back here and see if I missed. Oh, I did.
Okay.
Oh, I did. I will.
Okay, I just didn't know if you wanted to mention the professional group or not, or, because it's sort of adjacent to this, but.
Since you gave me an opening, I'm going to do it. So the NAPS is the National Association of Professional Pet Sitters. NAPS is having their annual conference in Tempe, beautiful Tempe, Arizona at the end of February. It is not too late to register for the conference. I am going to be speaking at the conference. I'm so jazzed. I'm going to be speaking at the conference on how to get back from your pet business and have a life. There's a really good lineup of other speakers. But even more than that, it's an amazing chance to network with other pet sitters and dog walkers and hang out with your people. It's just going to be a lot of fun. So if you're not signed up for NAPS, sign up, and I'd love to see you there.
I second that. We have been there for the past couple years, so I will be there as well. Eliza and I will get to meet in person, so I'm super excited for it. I always come away from the NAPS conference having learned a ton. Also kind of refills your cup. It gives you a lot of like energy and ideas for your business, and it's so nice to be in a room full of people who appreciate the same things that you do. So it's really awesome. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. If you're feeling like you're on the fence for this year, think about it for next year too, because it's one of those opportunities that happens every single year. And we'd love to see you there, whether that be this year or in the future.
Nicole, I appreciate that because I'm not going to make it this year, but it's good to know. I would have asked, is it annual or every other year? It's annual. I've been on the website. I haven't actually joined yet. The main reason being I'm just trying to get myself lined up with some of the goals. But there are some things on the website. Is any portion of any of this going to end up recorded or on Zoom or YouTube after the conference? So
Um,
that could be,
I
yeah, I
know
mean,
that they do some things
yeah,
for the conference streaming wise, but I'm not sure. But I'd be happy to ask my contact over at
yeah.
NAPS and get back to you, JJ.
I appreciate that because one of the things I noticed when I went on the website is that among the things you get for membership is the opportunity to take courses and certifications and classes. And that to me seems like a plus. And like I said, what I'm doing now is just making sure that the day I push the button and say, sign me up. And it's really good to hear your enthusiasm. Um, how this started out as a private message is somebody suggested I give this gentleman a call. His name is Gary Cimino, and they handed me his card. And he lives one town over from me. We've never met, but he was very enthusiastic. And now you're the second person enthusiastic about the group and the conference. So,
Yes.
but I want to make sure that I have that on day one, I'm up and running. So I'm getting all my ducks in a row. um, and, um, and thanks guys for helping to fill out that bit of information because you can be really lonely um, just because it feels sometimes like people who are in the same market as you are competition. Um, in my case, it's not the case, but and oddly enough, this gentleman, the acting president of this group, his name is Gary, lives one town over from me, but the one service he does not provide is he does not stay in people's homes with the animals. But where the Venn diagram overlaps is we're both involved with medical care, and in my case, end of life care for animals. So,
That's awesome. I'm so glad that you guys were able to connect. Another example of how the pet care community is amazing, collaborates instead of competition. And Gary, I know him personally. He's a very, very nice person. So I'm so happy to hear that you connected with him as well.
yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting him. I haven't met him yet, but it sounds like he's willing to travel and administer medications. And I think when you were talking about goals and goal settings and what you're willing to do and not willing to do, I'm not willing to drive all over the county. I am willing to stay in your home with an injured, ill, or dying animal if you can't be there. So, and again, reviewing the tapes. I think it was worth it to come back this time live and join you guys
That's
because
awesome.
it does well. It adds a little dimension. So thank you again for being available monthly for this.
Yes, thank you, Eliza. Huge, huge shout out to you. Thank you for everything.
Yay!
Absolutely. And I had one last question for you, Nicole, just so we don't log off and lose it. I know there's some things in the chat that we might have missed. I want to make sure we didn't miss any requests or anything. Are you going to save that or do you have access?
Yes. Yep, the meeting chat will be saved, so I will be able to share that with you, Eliza, and we'll make sure we answer any questions that came through that we haven't had a chance to get through. Make sure we get you all those templates and resources for those who have requested it. And thank you again, Eliza, so much. I feel like I've learned a ton today and appreciate everyone jumping in and sharing their stories, goals, feedbacks, and comments as well.
Yeah, it was great being here. I love everybody's participation. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming.
All right. I hope everyone has a great rest of their day and happy almost February.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching and stay tuned for our next roundtable.